Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Today, I am going to be showcasing a very good and very fun Nekros build focused on ability DPS that I've done on the channel before in my older Nekros video, but it is not up to these standards that I now hold myself, so I thought that I would come and show you guys my current take on it, which is new and improved and just better in general. The focus of today's build are going to be two very good abilities, those being Thermal Sunder and Terrify. But before we get started, I would just like to remind everybody that I do have a Patreon. You can go check it out at the link in the description down below to directly influence the content that gets made on the channel. You can also join my Discord down there too if you would like, and a huge thanks to all of my patrons: Bored Platypus, The Mad Wonk, Scotty Nose, Young Mung, Matt Goat, Erzos, Bad Robot, Jade Rabbit, Shrike, Flying Grizzly, Andreas, Minnie, and Jeffrey Santos. You guys are awesome and help make all of this possible. But getting on back to the video. Terrify, Nekros' second ability, grants him incredibly easy access to a wide area armor strip, needing only 167% strength to fully strip enemies. This ability does also not need line of sight to fully strip and will go through walls. Besides its armor stripping capabilities though, it is incredible for both crowd control and shield gating. Terrified enemies will run away from Nekros while also being much easier to kill, and its high base energy cost of 75 makes it a great candidate for shield gating, which is our means of survivability on this build, besides the natural crowd control that it already provides. Our next ability, Thermal Sunder, is our nuke ability for today, but as you'll see, by itself, the subsumed version of Thermal Sunder does incredibly low damage against these enemies, as Nekros obviously does not have access to the battery mechanic that Gauss does, which makes Thermal Sunder much stronger by giving it armor stripping capabilities. But of course, we will get that from Terrify when using Nekros. This creates a rotation of going around to groups of enemies, stripping them with Terrify, and then using Thermal Sunder to kill them all very quickly. We will be using the Heat version of Thermal Sunder, which is the hold to cast version, as this build does make use of the Archon mod, Archon Vitality. Archon Vitality makes our Thermal Sunder cause 2 heat procs instead of 1, essentially doubling its damage with a single mod. And because of how Thermal Sunder works as well, double casting will also double its damage, which gives it a significant boost, which is why I now want to introduce one of the lesser known but strongest mechanics in the entire game, Heat Inherit. When you inflict a heat dot, all further heat dots will scale off of the stats of the weapon used to inflict the very first heat proc. Now, I do not mean all stats specifically, but one that is carried over is the amount of modded heat percentage on your weapon. I like to use the Epitaph as my Heat Inherit primer, and using Scorch and Primed Heated Charge gives me a 225% increase in heat damage. Furthermore, abilities are treated as having 100% elemental damage of the status that they deal, and Heat as a DOT specifically scales its damage using said elemental heat percentage of the very first heat proc applied and the base damage of the current heat proc applied. Shooting an enemy with my Epitaph before using Thermal Sunder will cause the latter's heat proc to scale off of the one applied by my Epitaph, which increases Thermal Sunder's heat DOT by 3.25 times more, giving the 100% of the elemental base and the 225% we have modded on our Epitaph. We can scale this even further by using a Bane mod, as they double dip on DOTs. You are obviously unable to mod abilities with Banes under normal circumstances, but Heat itself is an exception to this rule, as it allows them to be carried over to further Heat DOTs, which makes Banes incredibly strong here. This gives us a massive increase in damage that can be further multiplied by also using Viral and a Panzervulpaphyla to further boost Thermal Sunder. Finally, the amount of heat procs are doubled by Archon Vitality, which is just the cherry on the top for this build, and you deal around 20 times more damage on this build compared to not using Heat Inherit, so you definitely should. A huge thanks to Asian Invasions for having some absolutely fire, pun intended, explanations for this system, and also for just being a fantastic content creator in general. If you haven't checked him out, please go do. He is absolutely fantastic and the reason I started doing YouTube in the first place. Moving on to the build for Nekros, we place a high emphasis on range, sitting at 220% through the use of Augur Reach and Overextended. The reason we do not use Stretch on this build, even though it would give a higher bonus than Reach, is because we need the passive of the Augur set paired up with Brief Respite to be able to successfully shield gate in a single cast of Terrify, as they both provide you with energy to shield conversion, which would allow us to shield gate in a single cast of Terrify, which we'll be doing often as it is also our means of armor stripping and crowd controlling enemies. Efficiency at 130% is a good median of being able to shield gate easily and also not losing all of our energy, but we use Equilibrium alongside that to help further boost our energy economy, and this also synergizes really nicely with his augment Despoil for his third ability, Desecrate. This makes Desecrate take health instead of energy for corpse desecrated, which will give you further loot, including health and energy orbs, which will further be boosted by Equilibrium. We do need to hit 167% strength for a full strip of Terrify in a single cast, so to do that I am using Molt Augmented to offset the negative 60% that Overextended gives. After 250 kills you will hit that, and paired up with Power Drift and Umbral Intensify you will be sitting at 99, but I am at 109. And that is because I am using a single red Crimson Archon shard for plus 10 ability strength, which I heavily recommend, as without it, it means you would have to use the Madurai Focus School to get yourself an extra 40%, or just 10 in this case, through the Sling Strength buff. But this is not what I would recommend, since that is a little bit too much upkeep in my opinion, so using a single shard is great, and paired up with 2 Ambers for casting speed will make this build feel a lot more smooth, and then 2 Azures for energy max, just so you don't bottom out as often as you could, although I don't find many energy issues when using this setup. And finally, Rolling Guard is fantastic for dealing with Eximus units, which will not be terrified, and also helps to deal against Acolytes, and I've already gone over why Archon Vitality is so good here. For your focus school, I like to use Unairu for its passive Poise or Pose, whatever. This grants you immunity to slow, stagger, and especially knockdown effects for 40 seconds. Since this is a priming heavy focus build, and the Epitaph's wide AoE will sometimes knock you down like that, it is great to be able to just go in and out of your operator and gain full resistance to that, since we are not able to use Sure-Footed or Prime Sure-Footed in our Exo slot, even if Power Drift does provide a 30% chance for a resist to knockdown. But that is going to be it for this video, everybody. I've been using this Nekros build a lot recently because besides Nekros just being a really great frame, he's also super good for looting, so having a super fun ability focused playstyle, which are my favorite in this game, paired up with a great looter frame, it is a mix of my 2 favorite things. What is there not to like? But on the more personal side of things, a major time constraint that has been going on for the past couple of months for me just freed up this weekend, so uploads are going to be a lot more regular now, not having these, week-long spaces in between them, and I'm very excited to be able to put some more work into the channel. We are growing super fast, on the road to 10K still, and it is just going better than I could have ever hoped for. So just know that I appreciate every single one of you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!